Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm standing here with Mr. Jeremy Sloane with Sloane Construction. Now we work out together in the same gym every morning. That's how I know him. He does high-end residential construction as well as you said some commercial too, right?
A little bit of light
You
commercial.
mind just giving him a background as to what you guys do?
Sure. So we've been in business for over 43 years now. My dad started the company exclusive to the town of Palm Beach in high-end residential construction back in 1982. I obviously haven't been around that long, but I have been in the business now for about 14 years. Took a little break, came back about 11 years ago. Been running all aspects of construction and operations for like the last probably 4 or 5 years. Everything from project management, sales, marketing, human resources, finance, that kind of things in the business.
So a little background. This is actually our second take. The first one didn't save. You can thank Jay for that one. But as far as the kid right now, he's getting into he's interested in construction. What are some things they can start doing to immersing themselves in the information so when they do, they can get some background if it is something they're going to want to do, as well as getting themselves ready so when they do enter in, they kind of have some momentum going already.
So I think, there's a lot of different aspects to the construction business, right? Everything from guys working in the field with their hands, carpenters, laborers, assistants, things like that, all the way up in the field still to superintendents, project management. I think knowing if you are somebody that likes to work with their hands, likes to be involved in manual labor, will guide you into that phase of the business. People, superintendents, project managers, sort of the most successful ones start out with some field experience and then work their way up through the ranks into that role. It's very rare that you get somebody who just comes into the trade for their first time and is a superintendent or a project manager, right? You don't know anything. And then other aspects of the business, I don't think are really construction specific, right? Finance, bookkeeping, HR, those kinds of things are really not unique to construction. So if you find yourself that you're a finance guy and you want to be in, construction management and or accounting and do accounting for construction, right? Those are just, tools that you're going to learn in school. And then determine if, there's an opportunity in the construction field or with a company or things like that.
And one thing you said in the first take that I liked was the ability to kind of tie in through your communication skills, having someone that's working in the office, being able to communicate with somebody that's doing the day-to-day.
Yep.
So one thing we focus on the next era is communication. What is it like trying to deal with different personalities in the business and then having someone that's an accountant mindset understand what's going on with the dude who's a superintendent of running the job?
So one of the biggest challenges we face in construction is the communication between office and field, right? They're two totally different personality types and they have two totally different needs and knowledge bases and all that other stuff, right? It's very atypical that a superintendent or a project manager really understands the finances, and it's very atypical that a person in finance really understands what's happening on a daily basis in a construction site. So I think that it really comes down to how you communicate with people, not necessarily that you need to know everything that the other is doing, but you need to be able to communicate effectively, explain yourself, so that you can explain to, if you're a field guy, to explain to the office where you were, what you were spending your time doing, how are we going to bill for it, et cetera, and vice versa. If you are in the office, you need to understand how to communicate what your needs are from the field to say, okay, how many hours were you in the field? What jobs were you at? How many people showed up from this subcontractor, et cetera, to know how am I going to bill the client? So I think it's really more about how you communicate with people than the fact that you have the knowledge base of whichever side of the coin you're on.
Of course. So another thing you touched on, the first one that I liked was the health, because we work out at the same gym every morning. Just talk to them about how living a healthy lifestyle, no matter the path you choose or your activity you're doing, can help you with communicating with the people when you're in there, but also in your position, you're dealing with the owner, all the subs, everything's coming down at the end of the day on your name.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help alleviate some of the stress, or have you found anything that helps when you're being active like that every day?
Yeah, so construction, any business owner, right, will tell you that there is stress. Stress is not a bad thing. Stress just needs to be managed. Things that have helped me manage stress are obviously active lifestyle, being healthy, paying attention to what I put into my body. I it's not about not indulging, but it's about controlling the indulgences. I also have been in therapy for 5 years. I think that talking to people and communicating and having somebody to vent to is really important from a mental health capacity or mental health side of things. And so I think that, living a healthy lifestyle gives you energy, it gives you focus, it gives you the ability to maintain those stress levels so that you can approach everything from this is not the end of the world, right? I tell my guys all the time, like,
right now you have Mason and your daughter. So if they were to come to you and say, hey, Dad, I want to open my own construction company, I want to take over your construction company, what can I start doing now to have the skills necessary to, when I get there, have the biggest, best construction company around?
So in my business, right, I think field experience is where it all starts. I think you need to understand the facets of the business before you can manage a business in construction. The ins and outs, you have to know how to read plans, you have to know how to communicate with others, you have to know what happens in the field. But I think in any business, it's not really about what you know, it's about being willing to learn from whoever is put in front of you, right? Communication is key in anything. You have to learn from others. You have to be open to new ideas, open to new products, open to the fact that you don't know everything. You will never know everything. As a business owner, I talk to other business owners. I see where they've had success, where they've had failures, and I try to, gear my thoughts and where I'm going to take my company based on those observations. Read, communicate with others, ask questions, right? Never be afraid to fail. That's probably the biggest thing. We in this country and this society seem to have this fear of failure because social media says that everybody's successful, right? That's not really true. Some of the most successful people in the world have fallen flat on their face time and time again. But the difference between those people and the people that stay down are the ones that just get back up and try again.
And they don't allow that failure to now become, if you want to fail in the future. It's just simply, it's part of life. Pick up.
It doesn't define you. Failure doesn't define you. Being open to new ideas, communication with others, learning from whoever is presented. You can always learn something from somebody else. And I think just having an open, respectful communication or line of dialogue with somebody is really more important than anything.
No, that's super important because also what he said was touching on, he could have niched down and said, hey, become the best carpenter. But instead, he said, focus on communications and your willingness to learn. And at the end of the day, as homeschooling families, we have a golden opportunity. We have more time with our kids to develop better social and communication skills, as well as we have way more time in our days for our kids to dive into what they're passionate about and become willing and just open books to whatever the information they need to learn is. We had a conversation that made a big difference in my life a couple of years ago. And it was just about how with business, even when things are going good, you still have to be very smart financially, and you can't allow what's the momentum that you're seeing right now to allow yourself to start living. But touch on that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think this is unique to construction, really. I think it's any business out there. But the stock market, the global market, everything has an ebb and a flow to it. And I think that it's really important to not get caught up in the I'm doing really well or keeping up with the Joneses or any of that. You really have to it's not about not spending your money, right? Kristen and I, my wife and I, talk about it all the time about the fact that we do spend a lot of money. But if you're spending that money within your value structure on things that are important to you as family, as an individual, as a business, right? Then it's okay. So if, for example, we bought a fixer-upper a number of years ago. If we were spending money on frivolous things in our eyes, right? Buying boats and buying cars and buying, things like that. It's not how we choose how we want to live. So we spend a lot of money on our house, but it's what my value system and what my upbringing says that this is what I should be spending my money on. I'm putting a good roof over my kid's head. We're trying to pay it off early. We're trying to make sure that we have a good place to call home that aligns with our value structure. So I think it's really important in any business to know your numbers, right? We've talked about this, knowing your numbers, because just because you've got money in the bank doesn't mean that you can go spend it, right? There's things that come up at the end of the year, taxes, insurance, all this stuff for me, just because of the way that the year works, all hits between April 1st and like May 30th. And if I'm not prepared for that in my business, if I've taken a big chunk of money that's been sitting there in December and I've taken a lot of it out and I'm not prepared for that expense that's coming around the corner, then I have to give it back to the company. So I think understanding where your numbers come from and what your expenditures are going to be and forecasting into the future are really important. And then always being prepared for the unknown, right? Things happen, accidents happen, health happens. You want to be prepared for those emergency funds.
If a kid's interested in going towards construction, is there any YouTube channels you know of, any podcasts they should listen to, just to start flooding their brain with information, so when they do get there, they're already kind of ready to rock and roll?
There's a number of podcasts out there that are really about business development, and there are some specific ones to construction. I honestly can't think of the names at the moment, but I'll plug them to you a little bit later. But I think really what you want to do is surround yourself with people that are experienced in whatever business you're going into and try to learn from them. That's really all I can say. I just came back from a builders conference. I went to seminars. I met with people. I've talked to other builders recently that are in other parts of the country, and learning from their businesses, their pitfalls, their successes has really re-inspired me to do things differently in my business. And I think I don't think, again, none of this is specific to construction, right? I think that people in non-competing markets want other people to be successful. We want to help other people, right? So when I get a chance to talk to a builder who builds in Texas, my success doesn't affect him one way or the other.
Yep.
So like, if there's something that we can teach each other about how to run a business, a specific construction detail or something to that effect, I think that we all naturally want to help each other. And sort of just doubling down on that theory, right? That like, you need to surround yourself with good people and ask questions. We talk about it, probably once or twice a week in the gym, about successes that I've had in my business, successes that you've had in your business, and how we can learn from those things, and things that like I think you should be looking at in yours.
Yeah.
And things that like
For Lauderdale?
Yeah, well, not necessarily, but like capturing those expenses, if they are business expenses, understanding that like, you're in business to make money. I'm in business to make money. Don't apologize for that.
Of course.
Right? My clients, if they don't want me to make money, they're not going to be my client. We're in this to make a living for us and for our families, for my team and their families, our subs and their families, right? It's a big trickle down effect. And so I think understanding that like, we're all in business to make money. My clients are in business to make money, so why shouldn't I? And then,
all right, so we have camera cup overheating, so we have a little mishap here. But we're just going to wrap it up. A couple of things he touched on that I want to just tie into homeschooling. Even when he's talking about how he's tying into other construction companies in Texas and they want to see him succeeding because it's not competing, this goes especially true for homeschooling families. We have to work together, because one parent might be extremely skilled in nutrition and health. Another parent might be great at teaching a kid math, or might know somebody that can help another family. If we can all work together and start tying into each other's strengths, it's going to make everyone's journey a whole lot easier. Jeremy, before we wrap up completely here, is there anything else you want to touch on as far as what you would suggest a kid, the next steps to go off if you want to do this? Even just go read a book.
Honestly, I think experience is everything. School's great. I learned a work ethic in school. I learned how to find information in school. The actual information that I learned in school is probably less valuable to me in my industry or in my experience than how to find information, how to problem solve, how to talk to people, how to communicate. Those are the skills that I think have really led to success in my industry and my business, more so than, what war happened in 1776, or, those kind of, the details about like, historical events, or how to solve for, I don't know, how many digits to memorize pi to, or whatever, right?
100%.
Those things are less important to me than the life skills that I developed from going to school, or from being in school, or from meeting with people and things like that. So I think it's really important to really just have, you learn something in all avenues of life. And I think communicating with others, respecting others, and gaining things from experience is really just the most important thing.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I hope this guys helps you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.